The Stainless Steel Rat by Harry Harison. A police officer busted in the office door and shouted out, "James Bolivar Digress, I arrest you on the charge." Before the police officer could finish his sentence, James pressed the button that set off the charge of black powder in the ceiling, and a 3-ton safe squashed the police officer flat. The police officer's hand could be seen outside the rubble, and he repeated,
On the charge of illegal entry, theft, forgery.
The list went on while James was busy stuffing all the money from the desk drawers into his suitcase.
In addition to the charge of assaulting a police officer, robot will be added to your record.
The police officer's hand tried to grab James' leg, but James evaded. The police robots in this world were indeed made to be indestructible. This police robot still kept on telling James to give up his life of crime and pay his debt to the society, even though James was already far away down the stairwell. James' entire operation is this. He rented a warehouse that backed on the government warehouse, allowing him to gain access to the entire stock of stored goods that would be untouched for months or years if he hadn't come along. Then he installed a belt and hired robots to remove the old labels and substitute colorful ones he had just printed. He then marketed his goods in a strictly legal fashion. He was able to undersell his competitors and made a handsome profit. It was a good operation and would have gone on for quite a while, but James knew very well that when an operation is over, it is over. The temptation to stay for one more day is overwhelming, but it would lead him straight to the police. Turn your back and walk away, and live to grab another day. That was his motto. James had about 3 seconds before the police would be on his tail, and it would take him exactly 1 minute and 8 seconds to get clear of the building. He had already reached the end of the aisle and pressed the elevator button. It arrived in about 3 seconds, empty. Being in an elevator was the most dangerous part of the trip. He was holding his gun tight while the elevator slowed. The door shuffled open and he saw no one. James let out a sigh of relief. The cops must have the entire area covered on the ground, so they hadn't bothered to go to the roof. James reached another building by crossing a plank. And in a place where he was absolutely sure there was no object box around, for he had checked it every week, James changed his disguise. Instead of wearing an identity of a 45-year-old businessman weighing around 98 kilos, James Bolivar Digress, alias Slippery James, had become a new man. 20 kilos lighter, 10 years younger, with a completely new description. 1 minute later, he took an express elevator along with other business types to the lobby. There was a closed glass eye at the entrance. If his description had been close enough to the one on the file, those robots would have been notified and he would have been pinned before he had taken a step. Apparently, it didn't, so he was in the clear. The cab took him about 10 blocks away. He waited until they was out of sight and took another one. It wasn't until he was in the third one that he felt safe enough to go to the space terminal. The sound of the sirens were growing fainter and fainter behind him. They were sure making a big fuss over a little larceny, but that's the way it goes on these over-civilized worlds. Along the way, he started to enjoy a good cigar and was drowned in his thoughts. He thought about how crime was a rarity in this world. Society had more rats when the rules were as loose as wooden buildings, but now that the society is made of concrete and stainless steel, there were fewer gaps between the joints, and it would take a smart rat to find them. A stainless steel rat. It was a proud and lonely thing to be a stainless steel rat, and it was the greatest experience being able to get away with it. The cab had just reached the spaceport and James paid the driver a heavy tip. It was a robot clerk behind the ticket window. He had that third eye at the center of his forehead that meant a camera. James' face and destination were recorded the moment James purchased the ticket, but James wasn't bothered by it. His ticket was for Mori, planet XVIII, a large and mostly agricultural planet. There were many little stores at the spaceport. James went to one of them and shopped for a new set of clothes. Inside the fitting booth, James secretly altered the keyed holes that indicated his direction. He was now going to Planet X. He really saw a big business opportunity the moments after he reached Planet X. James decided to go on an armed robbery for a change on the Planet X's largest retail store. Every evening at exactly the same time, an armored car accompanied by a motorcycle driver took the day's receipts to the bank. The real problem was how one man could handle the sheer bulk and weight of it all the money. James had bought a large tractor truck for that very purpose. After he had purchased whatever he needed, James smoked a cigar before commencing the mission. On the exact moment when the driver uploaded the last container of cash to the rear of the armored car, James instantly reached the cab. Before the assistant could respond, James placed an aesthetic bomb on his lap. The assistant slumped in an instant. James was not affected as he had filtered plugs in his nostrils. He then threw a larger bomb through the window to the rear and the guards dropped down to the ground. The motorcycle drivers were already after him before the armored car had gone 100 feet. James turned the car to the designated alley and pressed the button. His smoke bombs along the entire length of the alley ignited. As the motorcycle drivers could not see through the smoke, they had to stop. The button also opened the rear door of the trailer truck and it dropped the ramp for the armored car to get in. James then drove the truck in a roundabout way back to the store he had just robbed. The first part of the mission was completed. Next, James packed the cash into several boxes. It took almost 2 hours to stuff and seal the boxes with tape. He attached a shipping form on each box addressed to different pickup addresses and was all ready to finish the operation. When he was about to dispose the truck, James wasn't aware that there were police stationed outside, waiting for him. James was sure that his plan was perfect. He had no idea how the police was able to find his trail this quickly. It has to be the work of the Special Corps, the branch of the League that took care of the troubles individual planets could not solve. They were known to have finished off the remnants of the Haskell raiders, put illegal TNZ traders out of business, and finally caught Inskip the Uncatchable. No matter how hard he tried, escaping into the store's warehouse, moving around in a large farm goods showroom, hitting the elevator, running through endless hallway, his game was up. He was a rat looking for a hole, but there was none. The doors in the hallway were locked. One of the doors were unlocked. James entered a dark room. The lights came on and there was a man sitting behind the desk, smiling. "Have one of these, Douglas. I believe they were your brand." The body was a slave of habit. James took the cigar and sucked the life out of it. He still had his gun. "Sit down, Douglas, and put that cannon away. If I want to kill you, I would have done it a lot easier than herding you into this room. Who are you?" "Well, it doesn't matter who I am. What does matter is the organization I represent." "The Corps?" "Exactly, the Special Corps." "Alright, Mr. Detective, you have me. What's next on the program? Psychological reorientation, lobotomy, or just plain firing squad?" None of these, I'm afraid. I am here to offer you the job on the corps. I admit it is ludicrous, but if you stop to think about it, you have to admit that it was who was better qualified to catch the thief than another thief. Well, that's an interesting offer, but I'm not getting out of this by playing the rat. There is even a code among thieves, you know. What stupidity do you call that? It sounds like a line of a TV thriller. You've never met another crook in your whole life and you know it. Well, that's over now and you better start admitting it to yourself. You can no longer be the interplanet playboy you used to be. But you can do a job that will require every bit of your special talents and abilities. Have you ever killed a man? No, not that I know of. Well, you haven't. If that will make you sleep any better at night, you're not homicidal. I've checked that on your record before I came out after you. That is why I know you will join the cause and get a great deal of pleasure out of going after another kind of criminal who is sick, not just socially protesting. A man can kill and enjoy it. But what about the corps? If they ever found out you were hiring half-reformed criminals to do your dirty work, we will both be shot at dawn. Ha ha ha, in the first place, my boy, I am the corpse, at least the man at the top. And what do you think my name is? Harold Peter Inskip, that's what it is. Not the Inskip that, yeah, the Inskip the Uncatchable. The man who looted the Thython 2 in the mid-flight and pulled all those other deals I'm sure you read about in your misspent youth. I was recruited just the way you were. And who do you think the rest of our agents were? I don't mean the bright-eyed grads of our technical schools, like the ones on my squad downstairs. I mean the full agents, the men who plan the operations, do the preliminary field work, and see that everything comes off smoothly. They were crooks, all crooks. The better they were in their own, the better a job they do for the cops. The only men we can recruit to do the jobs are the ones who had already succeeded at it. Well, are you on? It happened too fast, and James hadn't time to think about it. But in the end, he decided to accept the offer. He knew that his decision meant that the old carefree way, the sole responsibility days were over. He was hoping that friendship would make up for what he had lost.
Hey, remember to sign up for my website and get some free reviews.